Y'all ready to be history?
Get started.
Welcome.
Hi.
Hello, everyone.
To the ProAudioSuite.
These guys are professional. They're motivated.
With Tech to the VO stars. George Wittam, founder of Source Elements. Robert Marshall, international audio engineer. Darren Robbo Robertson, and global voice. Andrew Peters, thanks to Tri-Booth Austrian audio, making passion heard. Source Elements. George the Tech Wittam, and Robo and AP's international demos. To find out more about us, check theproaudiosuite.com.
Line up, ladies!
Here we go.
And welcome to another Pro Audio Suite. Don't forget, if you do want to buy a Triboof, use the code TRIPAP200 to get $200 off your Triboof. Also, Rombo and AP's international demos, we're offering 30% discount. Just go to theproaudiosuite.com, have a look at the link, which is up in the top, which says Rombo and AP's international demos. Click on that and drop us a line if you're interested. Also, while we're recording, you, George, are in Dallas at OneVoice, and somebody won an award that you saw. Who would that have been?
Well, not only did I see, I was another candidate for the award, another nominee.
Oh, were you really? We're surrounded by brilliance.
I'm sorry, man.
Yeah. And the nominations are...
Yeah, there's two OneVoice nominees right here in the room. One of them won. So there was a category called, they did it last year as well, called Service Provider. And they make it very clear it's voted on by the public. Nominations are, I think, nominated also by the public, or at least the judges. So, I got nominated, and my friend Uncle Roy did, and a whole bunch of other people that I know were nominated, and Source Elements. So last year, Source Elements took it, and this year they did too, because they do good service.
Oh, there you go.
They do good service, and they do it all around the world.
Thank you.
Which is a lot of people.
Indeed. Yes, indeed.
So,
indeed. Well, congratulations, Robert.
in a way, I'd like to fuse the discomfort of me or Uncle Roy winning. It's because we're buddies.
You guys would have to sit at the same table.
Yes, it's awkward. It's just we're buddies and we do the same business, and it just feels weird. It just feels weird. So anyway, congrats, Source Elements, and maybe we'll see you next year.
Cool.
Yes. Well, awesome.
I think the key, actually, George, the key is just don't turn up and you'll win an award.
Yeah, that's
it didn't work last year.
Let me see. Do I have it here?
The best speech actually was a woman who said, "I thank myself."
Oh, really?
Because it was a self-book on the gig. It was not through an agent. So she said, "I thank myself."
There you go. Well, so she
I thought
should.
that was a good one.
Nice.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, we should be thanking Waves, actually, because Waves have just announced that you can use their plugins if you pay your subscription, I guess it is, on two computers.
Without having to beg them for it. Because you could do it before by begging them, and they would let you use it on two computers. But now it's official.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They would always let you do it on two computers if you maintained your whoop, actually. That was one of the benefits of maintaining the whoop. But it is interesting in the email, it very explicitly says this is for the same operator.
Oh, here comes your takeaway.
And so they're using the same exact business model as Adobe does, where the activation is good on two machines. If you log into a third machine on Adobe, it will tell you you're on a third machine and you must disable another machine. Or it disables all of them, and then you just start reactivating again. I can't remember which one it is, but
No, it tells you.
Yeah,
It tells me
you.
anyway. Yep.
Yeah, which is really handy because I like, as I've said many times before, I don't know anybody that actually works on one computer. We all have at least two devices that we work on. So it makes perfect sense to be able to do that. And it's funny because I don't know whether Twisted Wave, you can use it one license on two computers. I'm pretty sure Steinberg, you can't.
So Twisted Wave, before the new subscription plan, it was unlimited. And I know that because I've used it in unlimited computers. Technically, I mean, every computer I've ever owned has had a license the same.
Just drop your license.
Has had the same license. Yeah. I don't remember or recall reading any stipulation on the site about numbers of computers per user. So they may still be holding on to that same policy. I don't know. I would have to look that up.
Yeah, because it is very handy.
I mean, it's interesting because it is like a potential leak of licenses for them, but at the same time, to police it, you have to make that into the licensing structure, and especially for Twisted Wave, they are doing their own. You know, we're basically licensing through iLok, so we don't have to build it, and we just live within the structure that they provide.
Which leads me to the next bit, because when you jumped online, George, we were having quite a deep discussion about the pros and cons of the iLok.
I was literally saying I was looking forward to the day where I could open my house, start my car, like you name it, with my iLok.
Well, once you're in an ecosystem, you want everything to be in that ecosystem, whatever that.
Yeah.
My keychain would be so simplified.
It would be just one
It'd be
thing.
nice if it was also a passkey as
One
well.
thing, yeah.
So it had the password manager for all of your stuff.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
It's really interesting if iLok was supposed to get into that, and then you could have a hardware
Exactly.
dongle for your passkeys. My parents would actually relate to that. That's funny.
Yeah. It's so much easier than saying, okay, use this authenticator app on your phone that you installed just to use this one thing, and open that app up and then, authenticate off of that. It's a lot for the user.
Yeah. The two-factor authentication sometimes is annoying, and I'm trying to get all my two-factor over to Google Auth, but I have some that's through my text, some that's through the email, some that's through Google Auth.
I mean, it's difficult for us. I mean, imagine what it's like for just, the civilian, the regular user or Andrew.
Or me.
Or
yes.
Andrew.
It's very challenging. I just checked on Twisted Wave as FAQ. Can I install Twisted Wave on more than one Mac? Yes. According to Twisted Wave's license, you're allowed to install Twisted Wave Mac on as many computers as you want, as long as you are the main user. It says the main user of the license. So that would mean to me that you could have an assistant or an editor or an engineer working with you sharing that license. That's what I interpret that as to say. But anyway.
Okay, so Voodoo Sound bought Twisted Wave, and Mrs. Voodoo Sound was using Twisted Wave upstairs in the voice booth for her own voiceover company, even though you could technically say that Voodoo Sound is at this premises. See, this is where it gets interesting, doesn't it? It's like you can get yourself in trouble.
It's two simultaneous uses for, it's like being very strictly speaking, even though it's one household, it is two uses on two jobs. And I think the intention is that you as a person cannot be duplicated. And so you should be using your license once, regardless of where you are. Here's the way Waves phrase it. Starting November 1st, we will add a second license to all active Creative Access subscriptions, allowing subscribers to use their plugins on separate computers without having to move licenses between devices. The second license is for use by the owner of the main product license only.
Yeah, I think that's what Thomas is.
And they do state it, and it's an honor. It's an honor system
Thomas
thing, is what
doing
it
the
is.
same. He's just not getting quite as a fine tooth. He didn't have an attorney, rewrite it for him. It's just
Yes,
him
that's right.
trying.
Yeah.
And I think, and I'll speak for Thomas when I say this, so you get to verify with him, is really he's going, again, by a bit of an honor system, which he's known for that anyway. Like for many, many years, he didn't enforce really anything with the license. So,
Did he do anything else, or did he only do Twisted Wave?
I only know him as doing Twisted Wave, period. And then he branched out to the iOS version, and then the online version, and then the Windows version.
But,
So he's
but
really
his whole living, he feeds all 12 of his kids through Twisted Wave?
Yes.
He's got 4 platforms he's supporting now. So it's a lot to support and keep running and debugging.
I mean, it's impressive because he had a pretty permissive licensing thing, and he's a one-man show.
Yep.
It's amazing, actually, that assuming he does not have some other second gig and that this isn't just like a side hustle, it's actually impressive.
My understanding is he doesn't have a side hustle. And
No,
that this is
definitely not.
taking
Yeah,
up
this
enough
is
of his
thing.
time
Yeah.
that he just can't
Yeah.
do other things. Maybe he got the Mac version to a point where it was running so well that he thought, well, it's time. Let's get the Windows version built. So the Windows version is fully released, and it supports stacks just like the Mac version. You got to bring BYO plugins because there's not a single free plugin on a Windows machine. So, you start right out of the gate by having to get plugins, right? That's a big difference right there. But I have a few plugins of my own that I prefer to use that are totally free for those who, really need to set it all up. And one of them is because of Robbo. Robbo himself said, have you ever used Melda Productions plugins? And I was like, nope. And I have installed and used them. And for the free bundle that they have is pretty darn feature rich.
There's some kick-ass stuff in there, isn't there?
Pretty darn good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I have used the Melda EQ. I haven't used much else from them, but it did a fine job for some folks. But I've really been enjoying being able to support that cross-platform at last without having to run an actual Windows PC to make a stack. I can, as long as I build that stack using VST plugins on my Mac, it will load those plugins and everything on the PC, which is nice.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, back to Thomas, though. If you meet the guy, which I'm sure one day he will jump on a silver bird and head to North America at some point.
Yeah.
Depending how much money he makes out of Twisted Wave.
Right.
But you can tell, like you meet the guy, when you meet someone, they're just a really honest character and incredibly intelligent, obviously. And that's Thomas. That's the guy. So
if he starts showing up at conferences and sponsoring, we'll know he's making some real money.
yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He's spent, as far as I can tell, he has spent absolutely $0 on marketing.
But it's a good product.
So,
and good products market themselves sometimes, don't they? Let's be honest.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Can you please tell that to our Department of Marketing? Yeah.
Well, honestly, I never had a marketing budget until the last year or so. And now that George the Tech is a team of people, marketing is becoming much more of a real thing. Like, I really need to get the marketing machine running. So when you start hearing George the Tech on different places and different platforms, and you start getting tired of hearing that name, then it means I'm doing the right thing. So that means my marketing's working.
there was a thing that we used to talk about in radio, and when you're at the point of hearing a song, if you work in a radio station that is driving you insane because you're just overloading on that song, you usually find that it's just starting to get some traction with the listener.
The regular listener, the listener in the real world,
So as soon as we're sick of George, that's when George really hit it.
Yeah,
That's when George changes his name to Uncle George.
Uncle George.
Oh, no.
Can't be Uncle George. My dad's Uncle George.
Uncle George.
But the whole uncle thing, all I can think of when you say uncle anyone is some old bloke in a pair of shorts that are too tight and with one knacker hanging up the side. That's what it sounds like.
You got to work
to
on
me.
that for your Uncle Roy.
I'm just not letting my daughter call.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyways.
Yeah. Now, speaking plugins, Robbo, you've been mucking around with the SSL bundle.
Yeah, I downloaded it just because I'd had the Slate Digital bundle, and I'd sort of got to the point where there was only a couple of things that I really sort of liked and continued using, being a couple of compressors, the Grey compressor, Fresh Air, which is free anyway, and a couple of other things. So I actually let that go. And talking of budgets, I sort of realized, hey, I've got, X amount of dollars a month free. What other bundles are out there to sort of rent and have a play with? And so I downloaded the SSL one, which I've been playing with for a couple of months now. And can I just say, there's not a dog in there. It's so good. There's so much stuff that's sort of really nice to play with. I mean, compressors and EQs go without saying. There's some other stuff, like they've done some instrument specific stuff. They've done like a drum strip and a guitar strip. The vocal strip I kind of like, I guess. I mean, it's not a dog, but I don't really use it a lot. The drum strip I use all the time. The guitar strip, I don't really do a lot with guitars, so I don't have much to do with that. But the other stuff that's really good is they call it the Flex Verb, which is their reverb, and the X Delay, which is also really cool. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff in there that's really worth playing around with. And I guess, when the time comes and I sort of get sick of it, what will I keep? I would definitely keep the reverb. The de-esser is very nice. Their limiter, which they call X Limit, has been the final plugin on my mastering chain now since I downloaded it, because it's particularly sweet.
Is it like a brick wall?
Yeah, it's a brick wall.
A brick wall limiter.
It's a brick wall limiter. Yep. And it's just seamless though. You just you get it set up right. You just don't hear it working at all. And it gives everything that sort of nice punch, obviously, that you look for from a limiter. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
Is it based on some other model or something from their own?
Oh, there's a whole bunch of models of stuff. There's 2 bus compressors, a couple of channel strips, bus compressor 6, I think they call it, and the bus compressor 2, channel strip 2. But look, you get it. They've got a 30-day free trial, so you can have your first month on them. So definitely worth downloading and having a play with.
You have to give them the credit card. So.
Give them the credit card. So you've got to put a date in your diary if you want to cancel it. I think I'll probably have it for another couple of months, and until something else pops up, probably. I'll just hang on to it because, as I say, I do set aside some money to play around with new plugins each month, and that's what I'm landed on at the moment. So until something else crops up that I want to try, that's where it will stay.
It's funny with the SSL plugins, though, because when I bought the SSL2, it came with these plugins. I thought it was in perpetuity, but of course it was not. So there was a whole bunch of stuff like a channel strip and a flex verb and vocal strip, X-comp. There was an EQ, X-EQ, X-phase, X-saturator and X-valve comp.
It sounds like you've got the same bundle.
Yeah, but the thing is, I can't use any of them.
Why not?
You can't physically use them, or they won't work on your machine?
I don't think I can use them because I think, from memory, it was just a trial.
Yeah. Well, you would have got the 30-day free trial of this, possibly.
Yeah, it goes. In fact, I just clicked on it. It says all visible licenses expired.
There you go. Yeah.
I've been also using the Plugin Alliance stuff, and the main reason why I got Plugin Alliance was because having a HDX card, and Waves stopped doing HDX plugins, which are the DSP chip on the Pro Tools cards. So the only ones that you could really get the low latency on was Plugin Alliance, and I have to say they have a lot of really good stuff, especially their channel strip emulations of various consoles. They have like an API and a Neve and an SSL, and like every generation of SSL and every generation of or a few generations of Neves, and the Focusrite and the AMIC 9098, and then they have a pretty broad range of plugins, and they're all equal. They're all easily the same similar quality as the Wave stuff, I have to say. So, some people I think actually think better, but it's really hard to know when this emulation's better than that emulation, and you're sitting there going like, I've never touched the real thing. So
yes, exactly.
I have no idea. Really, they sound good.
Well, that's true though, because everyone that's got these buying plugins guarantee that 95%, if not more, have never actually used the real thing.
Oh, sure. Yeah, totally.
Yes. So it's like you could basically sell them anything.
You just use the same EQ algorithm in all of them.
Yeah, exactly.
But you would have had to work in a lot of rooms for anyone to have done that, or be a Chris Lord Alge or someone like that who mixes in different rooms.
But for or something.
The average schlop like you and me who works in a studio for a few years and then moves to a different job, you certainly wouldn't have played with all of them.
And then half the gear that you were probably using that was actually the original piece of equipment that they were emulating was probably broken anyway, or just getting tired.
Yeah. Well, that was part of the charm, though.
Yeah.
That's my good friend Jim Reeves, who mixed a lot of stuff. I mean, like Free Ride and all kinds of stuff back in the day. And he was joking, but I don't think so much. He was basically saying like, "Oh, these kids, they love the sound of analog. It's like, well, they're in love with the sound of a tape deck that hasn't been aligned in 3 weeks and its heads are worn out." Like, that's what they think of analog, because that's what we were working on in the studios, like they were cranking sessions out left and right. The decks are not necessarily aligned every single time. There is a lot of
what people miss is the imperfections of analog. It's not, they don't miss
right.
They don't miss improperly recorded audio. They just miss the imperfections and the distortion. I mean, the thing that makes a Neve preamp sound like a Neve or whatever is not
that
it's accurate. It's that it's not accurate.
Exactly. You can say the same thing for a 416.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, a 41.6.
Yeah.
It's the distortion that makes it that edge, that cut.
It's the color. It's the EQ curve. It's the way it sounds compressed.
Yeah.
All those things is what makes the mic work.
It's funny, I'm sure that we've all been down this track before, but when it's your turn to clean the heads on the reel-to-reel, and you realise that no one has cleaned them for so long, you got the cotton bud and it's like it's black. You're like, what?
They go through like 10 swabs. You're like, really?
What do you mean your turn? It was my job every friggin' morning.
That's exactly what Jim was saying. Right.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, in the studios, the on-air studios, no one did it.
Oh, I can imagine. Too busy smoking a joint to clean their heads.
Yeah, that's right.
blowing the smoke right onto the heads.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
exactly.
that's right.
Yeah.
And through the mic capsules and everything
Sitting
else.
there smoking a ciggy while you got the razor blade and the splicing block out. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But that's true, though. It's the imperfection that everyone tries to emulate. But the thing is, the imperfection was different on every single unit.
Well, that's where it's funny, because literally one of the patented things or whatever that Plugin Alliance has is this thing called, I can't remember it, but basically when you throw down the plugins, if you throw down 20 SSL plugins on your DAW, all 20 will be different.
Oh, really?
Because no channel in real life, no channel on that board was identical.
Yeah, exactly.
You all knew that there's like some channels that had the red tape on it and some had the, so they have the same thing where they vary the performance of the plugins themselves so that you don't get you get that same chaotic variation across your DAW.
Yeah. Because, I mean, if you're looking at a huge console, and like there's all sorts of things come into play, one of the main things probably is heat.
Well, like the channel's closer to the power supply on
Correct.
some,
yeah.
Like I have a 4-channel mic preamp, and the channel closest to the power supply is a little bit noisier than the other two.
Yeah, exactly. Huh. Well, there you go. Plugins, hey.
Plug in, baby.
Yeah. Plugins.
Plug me in.
Baby.
Well, that was fun. Is it over?
The ProAudioSuite, with thanks to Tri-Booth and Austrian Audio, recorded using Source Connect, edited by Andrew Peters and mixed by Robo. Got your own audio issues? Just ask Robo.com. With tech support from George the Tech Wittam. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and join in the conversation on our Facebook group. To leave a comment, suggest a topic, or just say g'day, drop us a note at our website, ProAudioSuite.com.